Okay, happy Sunday. February 2nd, 2025. Just in case you're wondering, I am live. We are live. So if you see something, you never know. You might have a surprise when you're going live. So happy February, everybody. Glenn Stein Broker, Realty Executives. I want to talk about 5 questions. There are 5 questions that we get in the brokerage from sellers, and we've got a lot of agents. We've been in the villages since 2004. In the current building, our main office is on 466 across from Laurel Manor, and we've been there for 18 years now. 2006, yeah, 18 plus years. Been in existence for 20. Had our 20th birthday party late last year. I think it was December. Yeah, somewhere in December, first, second week of December. And that was kind of fun. But today we're going to talk about 5 questions that sellers typically ask us. And there might be one in there that could be a little bit of a surprise. We're going to go deep on the questions, and I'm going to answer these questions for people that are thinking about selling their home. And by the way, I think these questions really apply for every market in the country. Not just the villages, Florida. And I'm going to go deeper in, some of the answers that I'm going to give you in a way could apply to wherever you are. So I'm not just interested in folks that want to sell their place in Florida. Actually, in the villages, I want to help everybody around the state and around the country. I know a lot of you that watch this will be from various places across the country for sure. So let's get into it. So 5 questions. 5 questions sellers typically ask. And so we're going to start, with the most basic one, which is, what is my home worth? And I think it's, it seems to be pretty straightforward, but I think something that's going to be important is, how do you determine? Because one thing I think about is that you've got a real estate agent that's walking into your home. They may say, your home is worth X. Another one comes in and they say another thing, and then you get an appraisal and it says something else. So how do you really, determine what your home is worth? And, the basic answer to that is obviously when you put your home on the market, when you get a buyer that comes in and buys your home, that's the value of your home. Everything being equal, when you've got that much exposure, you've got enough exposure, which I think is really key, which is also going to be connected to a question that sellers have, which is, what are you going to do to get my home sold? If you've got enough exposure on your home, and you do get, let's say this, you get one offer in the first 30 days. Okay. You get one offer in the first 30 days. What happens? Well, typically in this marketplace in the villages, and I think in most markets around the country, I'm familiar with most markets. If you can get one offer the first 30 days, then that's typically the best offer. And that's going to be pretty much what your home is probably worth. And I know sellers don't like to hear this because they think, well, they price it at a price with their real estate agent at a certain level. Let's say it's 300,000 or 500,000, and the offer comes in at 10% less, and it's the only offer that you get in the first 30 days. Then obviously, whatever that is, it's probably going to be about 10% because you got enough exposure out there. And especially now in the villages, what I will say is we have enough demand. And in fact, if you look at, what's happening in the villages right now, as far as how many homes are actually selling, what's going under contract, I'll give you an idea. I like to look at this. This is our 7-day market watch, which shows that we've got 56 new listings on the market, lots of price decreases, 108, which means that there's a lot of overpriced listings, and people are like, okay, I'm not getting the showings and I'm not getting the activity. 50 pendings. This is a good number. This is a robust number, but it's also the first week of February. This is actually really solid when we've got our pending number pretty close to the number of listings coming on the market for that particular week in that 7-day period. That's a good sign. These are the kind of things that I would expect you as a seller to ask your agent, because a lot of times we don't know what to ask. We just say, okay, what do you think my home is worth? But what needs to happen is there needs to be, as you see, like paintings behind me, there's a whole picture, right? there's not just the background, not just the base that you're seeing in the front, but also the woman that's floating in the air and in the painting. There's a logic behind figuring out, and it is an art to figure out what your home is worth. And I think it's important that the agent, the realtor that you choose, not just comes up with a number, but has a really good explanation as to why they've arrived at this particular number. So I think that's important, right? That's something that you really need to figure out when you're connecting and interviewing agents, right? Not just how much my home is worth, but how did you get to that price? And they should be able to explain it with statistics, right? This is what's on the market. This is what's leaving the market. This is what's happening, the speed of the market, which is the second question, right? The second question is, how fast can my home sell? And obviously, one thing that you need to look at is in each criteria, depending on, you could look at the macro in the villages and look at, how fast are homes actually selling? How fast are they selling? So you could do it that way, but also depending on what type of home you have, your category of home could be vastly different than another type of home. So in other words, a premier model is going to be different than maybe a patio villa, right? Because there's going to be maybe a difference in supply and demand for that. A golf course home is going to sell differently than, one that has a kissing lanai. That's a thing, right? Like that's, where you're basically cheek to cheek with your neighbors, and there's not much privacy, right? So there are differences in that. So what we're going to look at is, let's look at the, as I said before, we're doing this live. I love doing this live. It's kind of fun. It's like being a trapeze artist with no net, right? It's kind of adventuresome. All right. So what we're looking at here is let's take the last 10 years and let's look at days on market. That's what we need to do. So let's take, let's take days to sell median. All right. Let's see what that looks like. Let's look at the month. This is also going to tell us something that's going to answer one of our other questions as well, kind of. So, days on market, 10 years ago, we're looking at 40s and 50s days on market, which is, days to sell. How long did it sell? And we're back to those days, right? Like I think 2015 through 2018 or even 17, very similar days on market. 18, 19, a little bit less, 20 less. In 2021, that's where the market was on fire, which I don't think we're going to see in the next 10 years. 3 days on market, craziness, right? Like really, really fast, multiple offers, then frenzy, interest rates go up. Then we saw the obviously days on market go up, and they keep going up. And now we seem to be approaching what we've seen in the past, 53 days on market, very similar to last time we saw that 2017, 2016 and 15. That gives you an idea of how fast things are selling. Now, that could be different. What we are seeing right now in certain cases, depending on where you are, okay, what kind of home, what kind of condition, what's the price? Are you getting too aggressive with your price? Are you trying to push the limits? Are you not listening to the professionals and saying, okay, I'm going to list it here because I think it is, and just because my neighbors did this, and this happens, right? Like they're not people that are taking longer on market, are the folks that want to leave lots of room for negotiating, and then it stays on the market because buyers are just picking it through. Just like if you went to the grocery store, you went to Publix locally, or Kroger, or a lot of around the country, you go to the produce section and you see, I've got avocados in my mind, avocados, and you see that the avocados are now $5 for a Haas avocado as opposed to $1.50. Well, you're probably not going to buy it, so it's going to be the store is going to take, they're going to have more avocados, and probably avocados that are rotting in their store as opposed to avocados leaving, and then they're going to have to do a BOGO and get rid of it and fire sale, that kind of thing, right? It's the same concept, right? It's the same concept with real estate. So, how fast things are selling right now. In the villages, probably, I think it's safe to say about 50 something days. But a lot of it depends on location, the type, what's a great location, what's near entertainment. I had a buyer call me Friday. Was it Friday night? Yeah, Friday night, just a couple of days ago, and it was asking, okay, this is my logic. This is what I'm thinking. It was a great gentleman from New Jersey, and he was thinking, okay, I'm thinking about, I want to be here. I want to be between the sixes because I think a lot of the entertainment is there. I was like, well, that's mostly true. I mean, you get some good entertainment south and as well as Spanish Springs, but okay, that's where you want to be. And I think I want to rent it out for the next 2 years, which we do have property management and rentals. And then I want to eventually move into it after 2 years when I retire. And, it just depends on people's desires and what they're looking for. And right now, between the sixes has always been a pretty popular thing. I'm getting from my agents for the first time and maybe ever, we're getting a lot of people that are really liking and wanting to move north of 466. Typically, it's taken longer north of 466 Marion County because of taxes, because of age, and well, it's not as new and whatever. But now we're seeing people like, we bought new, but we prefer north because it seems more, mature landscaping, and it just seems like a neighborhood that we're hearing some of that. So a lot of it depends on people's desires. But how fast? Give you an idea, about 53 days. We are seeing if it's priced well, looks great, great marketing, all of those three things, you could sell in a couple of weeks or less. Could happen. We're still seeing that, by the way. What can you do, right? What can you do to sell your home is the third question. 3 out of 5. We're covering 5 questions that sellers have. So, the third question is, what do you do to get your home sold for the most amount of money, right? Most people aren't trying to sell their home for the least amount of money. The buyers are trying to buy something for the least amount of money. Sellers are looking for the most, mostly. Sometimes speed can override how much money they make. But overall, most people want to sell for more money than they do really fast. Reasonable amount of time is correct for most sellers. But, what do they need to do? Well, look at your home as if you were a buyer. If you're a buyer, what do you want to see when you walk into a home? Do you want to see that there's cracks on the wall, or there's something wrong with the windows, or the windows don't open, or things are dirty, or it's painted? And here's the thing: painted a color that's not going to suit you, or the flooring is not going to suit you, or you're not happy with the countertops, and you're looking at it like, gosh, it's red, it's purple. There's nothing wrong with red and purple. But what's wrong with red and purple is most buyers, not all, most buyers don't like red and purple. And they're like, wow, I have to paint. Oh, wow, that's a deep shaded purple. Okay. Going to have to put 2 coats, 3 coats on and primer and all this. Man, that's going to cost money. Then they do buyer's math. And then the buyer's math comes in, and instead of $3,000 to paint the place, it's now $7,000 or $8,000 or $10,000. And on top of it, the inconvenience. So especially in the villages, people are looking for something that is move-in ready, unless they're investors that are okay with fixing things up and cleaning and whatever. And if they're okay with that, they're also looking for a discount, and they're looking for a little bit of profit. So to make the most amount of money, pay attention to the real estate agents that are giving you great advice around staging, designing. Yes, it may cost money to paint or this or that and get your house in tip-top shape, but the money you're going to spend almost always, that's maybe always, I'm sure there's 99% of the time, I would say when you do that, the money you're spending, you're going to get it back when you sell it. Now, it doesn't mean that your home is worth 500,000. Generally, if it's in great shape and all of a sudden you spend 20, now it's worth 520, right? It just means that if you didn't do it, instead of selling at 500, you probably would have sold for 460 because of buyer's math. Hopefully you understand that. And if you have any questions, by the way, you can put it in the chat. Hopefully I'll see it. You can put it in the chat and I can answer that. Or down the road, most people will be watching this later anyway. over the next couple of days. You can put this in the chat and I'll answer any questions for you for sure. You can also connect with me at 352-572-3796, 352-572-3796. So top dollar usually happens when people get their homes ready and they put in the work to make it look move-in ready, right? So for the fourth question that sellers ask, and that is now the right time to sell, which is a little bit more complicated, right? I'm showing you these are the days on market. And I also want to show you something else for a little bit of a trend that I'm going to show you in a minute. But, when people are asking, is now the right time to sell? Let's take a look at when properties are actually selling. We're seeing a lot of inventory. If you've watched this channel before, many of you have, you've noticed that there are a record number of homes on the market right now. Okay. And, obviously that's been going on for the last couple of years. And it's related to obviously interest rates. And we've seen a lot more homes hit the market, but we've also seen, I think, a sufficient number of homes sell as well. Like, I think it's if it was a little bit faster, maybe a little bit better. But we're going to compare. Look at January, for example. And I'm showing you right here, January 2025, 117 homes closed in January of this year. A little bit more than last year, much more than 23, less than 22, a lot less than 21, but beats every other January prior to 21, 2015 through 2020. And obviously before that, Village has only been a mature marketplace over the last 5 to 7 years. So, these numbers obviously go down from there in prior years. So, when you look at this is the third highest January we've ever had. This is the MLS side, by the way, different than the VLS. If you have questions about that, we can talk about that. But 117 homes. Let's look at historically though, because this goes to the root of the question of, all right, is now the right time to sell? Is now the right time to sell goes back to, are you wanting to sell or not? Do you have to sell right now? Because if you have to sell right now, guess what? Now is the right time. If you don't have to, and you want to time the market when most homes are selling or the highest number of homes are selling, then this is going to help you out in the villas. I can't answer that for around the country. By the way, this is something I would have my real estate agent pull up for me, no matter where you are. So when is the best time to sell? When are the most amount of homes selling? That could be, also we have to consider inventory, of course, rate of speed is the thing. But without getting too complicated, let's look at, all right, so let's look at let's look at 24. Let's look at last year. First of all, the highest number of homes sold, March, April, May. Right off the bat, I'm seeing that, right? March, April, May, and that's closed, which means that homes came on the market January, February. You have to think about that. Okay, so January, February, and then March, April, May is when we had the most. If we look at 23, the highest number of home sales, look, it was different, but interest rates had something to do with this. May, June, and July, right? May, June, July. In 2022, same thing with interest rates. May, March, April, May. So a little bit of a shift. First half of the year is what we're seeing. 2021, look at this. Okay, so similar, anywhere between March and June. Closings, March and June closings. Keep that in mind. Now let's look at pre-2020. Let's take random years like 2018. Let's look at 2018. Typical average year. Let's see, we're talking about April, May. So anywhere between July and March through July, which is very typical, right? That's the 3, 4, 5, 4 to 5 months that are times when people are closing the most. Meaning that if you're going to be on the market pretty much now, pretty much now, and the Villages now, Villages, Florida, from now until probably May. It's about the time to put, it's the spring market, right? That's a lot of markets in the spring. And our spring, by the way, I think started this past week, because 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, it was like we're freezing our tails off. So it was like really nippy. And for Florida, by the way, for many of you, like, okay, 40 degrees, it's not that bad. But give you an idea, is this the right time to sell? This is probably the right time to sell if you want to gauge it according to when homes sell the most, okay, in the market. Then the last question number 5, how do we market homes differently? Which, another way to put that is, what are you going to do that's different? What does your company do that's different? What is the agent? And each realtor that we have does things a little bit differently, independent contractors. But I'll tell you that there's a couple of things that I'll lead with that I think have made us really strong in the marketplace. One is we have a caravan, which I don't think anybody else is doing. No one's really doing a in-person caravan. We have a caravan bus. We literally have a bus, and hopefully in the chat section, if you have seen our caravan bus, let me know. If you've seen it around town, put it in the chat. I'd like to hear from you. But we have a caravan bus. We leave our office Wednesday mornings, 8:30, and we take about 3 hours, and we look at the latest listings for our latest, not everybody's listings. We have enough as a company. So we look at, our listings for the week, and not all of them, but the ones that want to be on caravan, we take a look at them, and we drive to each house, and we look at the homes. That's a marketing tool for us. Our agents, it's the equivalent of an automatic Brokers Open, right? Brokers Open are very hard to get agents to that, but now we're getting 40 to 50 agents walk into a home and giving you added exposure. So caravan's a big deal. I think the second thing is, for those that are doing, staging and design work, or at the very least recommending, here are the 4 things that I think you need to do to get your home ready. And then they've got the vendors to help you if there's something that needs to be repaired, replaced, painted, whatever, fixed. I think it's very important. I would almost recommend, and this isn't even part of my script, but kind of a bonus thing of like maybe getting a home inspection before, like a quick home inspection before you put it on the market, find out what's wrong, and then, take care of those things. And that way, when the home inspection comes in, there's nothing wrong with it, and the buyers don't really have a complaint. So I think there's something to that, something to think about as a seller. And then the third thing is what we do differently is help you navigate the marketplace by providing statistical evidence as to this is what's going on in the real estate market, and here's a way where you can navigate the best, right? And we've got a quarterly update that we provide. Let me know. And I don't know, text me, by the way, if you want a quarterly update. We can actually email it to you. Text me your email address, 352-572-3796. We do a quarterly update piece. That's a brochure but if you want a copy of that, let me know. We have it at our open houses too, typically. 352-572-3796. So those are the 5 questions that sellers ask. Number 1, what's my home worth? Number 2, how fast can you get my home sold? 3, what can I do to sell my home for top dollar? Number 4, is now the right time to sell? And number 5, how do you market differently? What are you going to do to get my home sold? And I give you 3 things that we do. And no matter where you are in the country, these are questions that you can ask your real estate agents. What are you going to do differently? Detail your marketing. What's your marketing plan? What's your plan to get my home sold? Is now the right time to sell or not? Tell me why. Show me why. What can I do as a seller to sell my home? What are some things? And don't be afraid of that, sellers. I think sometimes we're afraid, like we don't want to know. And don't judge. Here's a key thing. Don't judge the agent by what they recommend. I've seen this happen, and I've seen people go with another realtor because this person said I had to do this, and I went with the person that said I had to do less. And every home sells, doesn't matter the condition. The question is, would you have made more if you would have done these things? And you never really know. You don't know that. So don't let that be the deciding factor, at least not alone. How fast? Of course, that's statistical, days on market. and then what's my home worth, and make sure, just like the painting example, that it's not just a number, they're coming up with, but it is a full detailed description as to why this number. Okay, this is why. So if you have questions, please connect. I'm Stein Broker, Realty Executives. Happy February, everybody.